Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host on the Virtual Summit podcast. I am super excited for our episode today because we are going to be getting deep into the collaborative marketing strategy. And we're going to be talking about something that you absolutely need to know about. We're going to be going deep into speakers and how it can be a game changer to align yourself with a mission. So today I have a very special guest. We've got Marissa Stone, the owner of the Systems Lounge, host of the Women's Business Systems Summit, business growth strategist and systems queen who empowers high integrity six-figure female entrepreneurs. I'm so happy you're here with us today, Marissa.
Dr. Mark, I am so stoked to be here. I have been listening to your podcast for quite a while and thought to myself, I have got to get on that podcast. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we got to give a special shout out over to Jamie Slutsky, who put us in touch. She's a great friend of both of ours, also an amazing summit expert over there. So I'm really excited. We're going to get into some information that is absolutely foundational for summit hosts, and that's speaker research, speaker recruitment, speaker collaboration. And Marissa, you have done a really excellent job of kind of figuring out this process of not only how to make the speakers want to come after you, but how to align that so that you really grow an incredible summit and an incredible brand. Now, before we jump into those specifics, why don't you go ahead and just very quickly let the summit host know just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I actually got into entrepreneurship in 2015, and I came out of academia. Like you, I've hit all of the top degrees, right? And I came out of academia wanting something different for myself and wanting to redesign what I was doing. And I started managing social media, and then I went into working with women and dealing with systems because I've always been really techie. And so, you know, listening to the women that I was working with, they really struggle. They get intimidated by the systems, they get intimidated by the technology, and they don't know how to put their business together in the online space. And that, turned into the Systems Lounge. And basically what I do is I support those women who want to set their businesses up in the digital space with the systems that are required for them to be able to stay in their zone of genius, be that person who is the front runner, the CEO, that person making those connections and building those relationships with their prospects and clients.
And that is, I love how you said that, the Systems Lounge. I love that. It's such I know it's a little different. I'm a cigar guy, right? So when I hear lounge, it automatically makes me just feel like a comfortable, safe environment where I can hang out and have a good time. So I love how you've kind of brought that together.
Exactly. And that's exactly where it came from, because so many women are intimidated by the systems that I wanted to take that down a notch. And I have clients who step into my office and they're like, my shoulders just relax, And I love that. That's why it became the Systems Lounge, because it doesn't have to be crazy and chaotic. You can put together a system from the old analog pen and paper system to a full-on automated technological setup like your Virtual Summit software.
Exactly. So we're going to get into the Systems Lounge. We're going to get into the Women's Business Systems Summit, actually. And so why don't we go ahead and start off, because you've run several summits now. Why don't you just give us kind of a high-level view of how your business, or your summit, I guess we'll say, kind of has progressed over the last 3 summits? Just one or two main things that you've seen grow and how it's happened.
Yeah, for sure. I think it all began with the speakers, because year one, obviously I knew nothing about what I was doing inside the world of creating a summit. But what I did know was I wanted a specific type of person that was going to come in and empower our attendees. Our attendees were female entrepreneurs trying to build their systems inside their own businesses. And I wanted people who were specifically able to say, this is the system I'm using to move the needle on my business, and here's how I do it. And I started out with, an application that was sort of a semi, it was a one-page document that they filled out, and it didn't really capture everything. And what I learned from that experience after vetting over 80, applications that came through, I only wanted 30 speakers, was I needed more information. So in year 2, I really worked on that application and honed in on it even further. And by year 3, I have a very robust 5-step process that allows me to go through and specifically handpick and very easily choose the people that I want inside the summit. And what that's done for me is it's allowed me to create this vast network of people who I still connect with every single day or every single month, if it's not daily, where we are still finding opportunities and ways in which to collaborate and support one another. So the summit is not only the event, but it also creates this vast network that you can then turn to when you need to accomplish your next goal.
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact. I absolutely love this. And you're talking about something that I feel is super important, especially when it comes to speakers, because I see on a regular basis summit hosts kind of making this mistake where they're thinking about just grabbing that big name influencer or the big name speaker because they think it's going to immediately make their summit better. And I've talked on this a lot on why and how I don't think that's the best case. Now, you kind of have a different thought process on that as well. Like, why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, I totally do. So when I first started out, like I said, I literally kind of took those 80 applications and tried to fit people into the tracks inside my summit that I felt were going to work. And what I quickly realized was that everywhere I looked, there were summits with all the gurus, that are jumping on there and they're having their conversations. And don't get me wrong, I love them. I follow them. I listen to them. I definitely take in the value that they're sharing with us. But what I noticed was when my attendees were looking their way, they felt like they could never achieve that. Somehow or another, that person had a team of experts behind that door over there, and they had all the things in place that in my mind at the level I was not achievable. And I didn't want that. I wanted my speakers to be able to, connect with the audience in such a way that they said, oh, if Marissa can do that, I can do that too. So I purposefully did not go after those. I'll take probably, B and C level, experts in the field, but I won't go after those A-listers because I want my attendees to feel empowered to accomplish the goal. And I feel like there is a degree or 2 or 6 of separation between them and those A-listers. And I think that can impact what your audience member gets out of your summit. Please don't take this wrong. I'm not trying to sound mean or, my point is you got to know your audience. You've got to know what they're looking for and you've got to know what they need. And so my audience members come in thinking, I need a productivity system, or I need a social media marketing system, or I need a quick cash infusion or whatever it is. And you need to know which speaker is going to be able to answer that call. And that's the speaker you pull in to speak on your summit, right? And obviously I'm talking about my summit and my tracks. Yours may be different, but you definitely want those speakers that can answer that call.
I'm with you right there, Marissa, because for me, I think you've nailed it with that as well. And that's such a great aspect or perspective to understand from your audience perspective. I also like to say, like, if your goal is as a list builder, if your summit is a list builder objective and you have a bunch of influencers on there, most of those gurus or high level or A-level anchors, whatnot, they're not going to be promoting the summit. So it's actually, I see a lot of summit hosts who are end up being kind of let down or disappointed because their summit didn't perform. And I go and look at their summit, I'm like, well, you got majority of the people who are not actually going to promote it. So I think you're speaking the truth here, and you're not being mean. You're actually telling people what they need to know here. So I hope everybody out there is listening in on this. Now, before we continue with the speakers aspect, I'd like to let our audience, our summit hosts who are listening in right now, kind of understand the progression of your summit, because you're on track to do a pretty phenomenal job. So if you're open to letting us know, can you kind of tell us where your summit was on Summit 1, what the success rate was, what you ended up with the last one, and then again, where you're on track to go now?
Yeah, so Summit 1, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't run the first ad. I didn't have a team of people on board. Like it was me and the computer, and we were, and the speakers, and we were running this thing. And so I I got only about 1,500 people registered for that event. And it was okay. It wasn't, oh my gosh, that was fabulous. What was fabulous was the collaboration that ensued from being involved in that process. And that just kind of sent a light bulb off in my head that, wow, look what we can do. And I got so many emails from the attendees that did show up. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for producing this. Thank you for pulling in that speaker who understood me. I even had a speaker who was in college. She was a second year, I believe. And this was the first time she had spoken on the international level, and my summit is and has always been an international summit. And so I realized at that point that by listening to my audience, I was changing lives. So year 2, obviously wash, rinse, repeat. I get a little bit better in choosing my speakers and really making things happen. My numbers tripled. Again, I still wasn't really into ads or anything like that, but I did, our reach was about 350,000. And I was like, wow, okay, and the only thing I changed with regard to pulling my speakers in was I got more specific on what I wanted inside the tracks. So it wasn't that I went after the A-listers, I went after specific people who were answering the call that my audience was providing to me. And this year, we're poised to reach 750,000. Super stoked about that. We have some amazing speakers. Every single one of them brings their A game when it comes to their interview. And the other thing that I started doing, even year 1, was I created a community for my speakers. So a lot of times when your speakers show up, they show up to your event, they do their spiel with you, whatever the interview process or workshop or whatever it is, and they promote it out, and that's it. You may follow up with them later and, maybe rerun the summit or whatever it is you're doing, but that's pretty much it. And I decided that I wanted more for my speakers. I wanted to give them back what they were giving me. So I created this community for them within which they could engage with one another. And I'm always in there encouraging collaborations and encouraging opportunities to engage. If somebody else is running a summit, I'm telling them who was fabulous in that topic area on my summit. I'm looking for ways to really give back to them. And what I found by this year's summit is that I have this vast network of people, because new to my summit this year is a mission that we're working on, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I think what's been a game changer for me in my business is this vast network of people that I've created because I've worked so hard to nurture my speakers.
Yeah. And I think, especially for our newer summit hosts out there, that it's important to understand, because I talk a lot, obviously I'm a summit guy, but I talk about how to grow your business too, because ultimately we run the Summit Ascension model. And when it comes to running a business, collaborations are one of the quickest and most powerful ways to really scale your business. So I love what you've got there. And I want to get into the speaker group a little bit more here in just a second. But I also want to make a really important distinction here, because I know a lot of our summit hosts also think, well, I need to do a 50,000 person summit. Like maybe 1,500 people is not enough. And when I hear that, I just like, that's 1,500 people. If you were going to do that in a physical event, I can't remember the last 1,500 person conference I've actually attended, right? So each one of those is an actual person that can move forward with your customer journey. And additionally, that's a 6-figure business. My first $136,000 launch came from a list of 900 people. So yes, for all of our summit hosts, especially our new ones, even if that first summit is not a 5,000 or 10,000 person summit, 1,500, you got to remember that those aren't just numbers, those are people. So I love what you got going on here, Marissa. Also, what I'd love before we jump back into that speaker group, because you've mentioned multiple times now how the summit has allowed you to create these collaborations with speakers, and I'm way with you on this. Can you give us one example of a great collaboration that actually came out with one of your speakers?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I'm working on right now is I'm working with one of my speakers who is also a publisher, and we want to turn tracks inside the summit into publications. And so that to me is my most exciting opportunity to collaborate. Obviously, there have been tons of opportunities to speak on their summits, speak in their Facebook groups, go into these collaborations with regard to courses or retreats or live events or what have you. I cannot even tell you how many times I have collaborated with another female entrepreneur and added, 500 to 1,000 more people to my email list, simply because I took the opportunity to reach out and say, hey, would you like to do this? One of my other speakers, I'm collaborating with her and we're hosting a retreat. So I'm always looking for ways in which to bring people together and provide our audience with even more value. So, I know that speakers sometimes can be difficult to manage. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of schedule changes. There's a lot of, there's a lot of moving pieces in a summit. I get that. But if you can look beyond that and you can say to yourself, wow, look at what this person has accomplished. How can I support them and elevate them? That is in turn also going to elevate myself and my company so that we can work together to provide both our audiences with even more value. That's the game changer piece.
It is such a game changer. And I love that idea about the tracks into publications. You actually got my mind going on a couple things. I mean, I've got 20 something summits sitting there that could easily be turned into physical, either books or articles or things like that. So I love this idea. And this is why I do this, right? I'm a student of the game. I'm constantly learning as well. So keep feeding me these ideas, Marissa.
Yeah. For sure.
So let's jump back into the speaker group a little bit. Can you kind of walk us through this process of how, let's say, maybe start with your application process, because we were discussing that a little bit on our pre-interview chat. So kind of walk us through your specifically through your application process, like what that looks like. And then maybe on the back end, what it looks like getting into your speaker group, and then kind of what you do with that.
Yeah, so I have a 5-step system that I put into place to manage my speakers, because there are a lot of moving pieces, and it is, a good bit of work to do so. And if you're a small team, or for some of you out there being a one-person show, you need to automate as much of this as possible. And so my first step is a very robust application process. And I want you to stop and think to yourself, what do I truly need from this speaker before my summit goes live? And some of those things are going to obviously be, their social media channel links, their headshot, and it needs to look like a real headshot, not a selfie, right? Because you want to raise the standard of your summit. And I always collect from my speakers their professional bio and their abstract and all of those pieces that I'm going to need, their freebie link because I always have my speakers give something away at my summit. I'm not one of those summit hosts that gives every speaker my full list. And I know some of you are out there. I don't feel like I am being ethical to my attendees if I give every speaker that list. So instead, I have my speakers provide a freebie for my attendees. And if they want that freebie, obviously it should be set up on a landing page, and then they can collect email addresses that way. So the first thing is that robust application process. I do mine inside Google Forms because it automatically spits into a spreadsheet. And when that becomes a spreadsheet, which is step 2, I can immediately weed out everyone who did not complete the application process. Here's why you want to do that. If they are not going to slow down and complete the application process, they're not very likely to answer and respond and fulfill the requirements of being a speaker for your summit. Perhaps they're not ready yet, and that's okay. And I don't ever say if you're not on board this year, you can't reapply next year, right? Because they can. Some of your speakers simply aren't going to be there yet, right? And I have speakers inside my summit this year who've been following my summit for years and are finally at a place where they've stepped into their zone of genius and they want to share their knowledge and expertise. And so that kind of process, watching them grow over time, is also magical to me. The third step is obviously weeding out anybody who did not follow the directions, didn't, do what you asked them to, but also after looking at all of their links, checking their social media, determining what their message is, all of those people whose message doesn't quite align with yours. Now, why do I care about that? Because my audience is coming to me as the expert in systems. And I want to make sure the message that my speakers are sharing aligns with my values and my expertise with regard to systems, right? You're going to want to do the same thing when you're looking at who's applying to be a member of your summit, a speaker inside your summit. And then once I have kind of gone through and weeded through them, I send them a speaker agreement. Now, I use DocHub because it's $59 a year, and I'm able to set up a template in there that I can send out to hundreds of people. So not only do I use it for my summit, but I use it for my podcast, and I use it for all the other opportunities people have with which to engage with me in the online space. I attach the welcome letter to the front of that speaker agreement. Now I've killed two birds with one stone, right? Again, automating that process so that in that welcome letter, it has everything they need to know, from what type of microphone they need or headset if they're using a headset. It has, all of the tips and tricks about not wearing clingy jewelry or not, all of those things you don't really think about are inside my welcome letter. And then the speaker agreement allows me to repurpose the content in any and all ways in which I want to repurpose it. Again, DocHub follows up with them, so I don't have to play the email back and forth game that nobody wants to play anyway. And then step 5 is sending out that scheduling link. That scheduling link does not go out until all the other steps are complete, which means the speaker, it puts the burden on the speaker to have completed all those steps before they ever get the opportunity to schedule an interview with me. But that's not all. Inside my scheduling tool, I also give a last-minute questionnaire for anything that they may have forgotten. So let's say I've connected with a speaker and they're busy, they're out of town, they're on vacation, they're at an event, whatever, and they haven't had a chance to send me their abstract or send me the 3 to 4 questions or topics that they want to make sure I touch on inside our interview. Inside this questionnaire, they can fill those last minute pieces out. And some of my speakers, probably about 50% of my speakers, actually create a specific freebie for the event because of the topic that they're talking about at my event. So sometimes I'm also collecting those freebies, on the back end. So that's pretty much my 5-step process, and it has served me extremely well in making sure that I'm vetting my speakers and creating an event that's on the standard that I want it to be. Again, once I've got all my speakers together, I then invite them to become members inside my speakers community. Now, only the speakers are allowed in the speakers community, not their assistants, not their OBMs or whomever. I want the speaker themselves, because my goal is to allow those speakers the opportunity to, gain from the collaborative experiences that I've gained from over time, right? And because my goal is to empower these women, I want to empower all women that come in contact with my summit, but even my speakers kind of need that little extra push. And so I'm always encouraging inside the speakers community, I'm always encouraging them to tell us about events they have coming up, tell us about, what they have going on where they might need a speaker. And I'm reaching out and letting them know, hey, this speaker was fabulous on such and such a topic. You may want to touch base with her. And then I tag both of them in that post. Things like that, where we're doing more. We're going above and beyond just showing up and doing our spiel and promoting and leaving. We're going above and beyond with the summit and the experience inside the summit to have those opportunities to connect and collaborate.
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact. That's just so intriguing. I love that idea of the speaker group. I mean, we've done speaker groups often, but usually they're like one-offs or they're specific for a certain summit. But I like this kind of ongoing, almost like, camaraderie or collaboration, which again, collaborative marketing strategy, why not pass it on? Yeah. So this is incredible. And I've got a lot of great ideas going on over here, Marissa. So I want to keep this going. So we've gone through your vetting process on how you work through that. And I love this. I mean, we're talking with a systems queen right here, right? So you're taking us through all of these systems, which I'm loving. And all of you summit hosts, let me put this out there for you, because I'm kind of one of those disorganized mess, chaos or whatnot. But if you're thinking like that, I will say you've got to start somewhere, right? Even if you can't implement everything, start with one or two of these, get them in place. And then once you're comfortable with that, you implement one or two more. And I completely agree with you that once you have that, your ability to move at a much more rapid pace, as well as scale at a much more rapid pace, is so much more. So definitely be listening to this, go back, re-listen to it, implement this. And maybe Marissa, you have something that we can put in the show notes where they can get access to your 5-step speaker vetting process. Okay, cool. So moving forward with the speaker group, we've gone through that. I'd also like to just ask, could you give us one or two more, let's say your summit's over, the summit's gone, and you run this summit annually. Can you let me know, or let us know, what do you do more specifically? Do you actually have a plan or a strategy ongoing after the summit on keeping that group engaged? Because I know from my own perspective or my own experiences, sometimes, I get lazy. I'm not in my group enough and it kind of dies off. So give us a couple of your strategies or your systems on keeping that engaged throughout the whole year.
Yeah, for sure. So another thing that I tell my speakers as they come in, first of all, let me go back for just a second and let you know that this has been an ongoing group for the past couple of years, and well over a third of my speakers have stayed in the group. I've interviewed, probably 150 women. Well, no, a little more than a third, because I think at the last count, I have 96 women still in the group. So it's amazing that once you create this collaborative opportunity, how many people are going to stick around, right? I've spoken on a ton of other speakers' summits as well, which has given me, that many more people on my email list. But the ongoing process, so every single speaker that comes to me, before I do the interview, I kind of give them the housekeeping tips. And a couple of those housekeeping opportunities are obviously the publication opportunity that's coming up, where each speaker would be able to own a chapter inside the book that's all about their area of expertise, right? So that collaborative kind of authorship opportunity, and then also opportunities to be on my podcast moving forward. Obviously things that I don't know are going to come up. I always turn to my speaker group before I turn to any other group. And I own a number of groups out here in the online space, and I'm always interacting in those groups. But my speakers, because they are near and dear to my heart, and they are really my VIPs when it comes to my summit, I give them opportunities before I turn those opportunities to anyone and everyone else. Again, my goal is to empower them and encourage those collaborative efforts that actually move all of us forward and move the needle on all of our businesses together. So yes, I don't know that I have an exact system down for collaborating with them, but I do make sure that I'm in that group several times a month, updating people on what's happening, asking them what's going on with them, introducing people. When I see somebody else post something where they're looking for somebody, I jump in and answer and tag the speaker that I think that they should turn to. Or if that speaker has already left the group, I'll go, shoot a message to that speaker real quick and say, hey, somebody in the group is looking for you. If you're interested, I'll introduce the two of you. So it's really taking that opportunity and connecting them with people can help them and support them, or vice versa, they can help and support. That's really all it's about. It's relationship building.
And that's so important, though. As you just said, relationship building is what makes the partnerships and the collaborations happen. And even one other kind of idea or tip that comes out with that is, you're already giving opportunities when they come. And for our summit hosts listening out there, even if you don't have a speaker group yet, when you get opportunities to speak on summits or even on podcasts, for example, every time I'm asked to speak on either a podcast or a summit, I always offer at least 2 people to that host of the podcast or the summit, because you know what, they're looking, they need people, and if you can help them, like, they're going to remember you. So you're actually winning twice. You're helping the host, so now they're a huge fan of yours, but you're also helping these other speakers get opportunities. So anytime you can kind of pair or match or share, it's always a great idea. So I love this. With this now, like, so let's continue on this journey. Let's actually, I had something pop up a couple minutes ago when we were talking, and I want to get this because I know sometimes I struggle around this. And I'm curious, with your system, you have to tell some speakers no occasionally, right? So I'd like to hear kind of how that works, like how you handle that, and how you kind of still make it like you're still good, but no. So talk us through your no process when you have to tell a speaker no.
Yeah, so my no process, I follow up with an email, obviously similar to the welcome email. This is sorry, we had hundreds of applications and I had to select only however many are in the summit, but I do want to encourage you to reapply and also attend the summit later on, so you can kind of see a little more about what I'm looking for inside the application process. So I always try to give them that piece that I was missing, right? For some people, it's they'll add their name, their email, and maybe their URL, and then they don't finish the rest of it. And that tells me one of 2 things. Either they want me on their radar, but they're crazy busy and they can't get to it at that moment, or they're simply kind of freaked out and they just don't even know, because it is a robust application process. And I know it can be intimidating, right? And so if they are somebody that I'm interested in, I will reach out to them. I had one speaker this year who just had a baby and she was crazy busy, and I had to work the interview around her baby schedule because she was due, there was no putting that off, So sometimes that happens with your speakers, and giving yourself that opportunity to come up with a really good email out to them when you have to reject somebody is extremely important. The rejection, a lot of times when we get rejected, it's devastating to us. And what we need to remember about rejection is a lot of times it's no, not right now. It's not no forever and ever, amen. It's no, not right now. And I've had that happen with a lot of speakers over the years that I've been running my summit, where in year 1 or year 2, I didn't accept them, but I did accept them this year. Seeing what they've accomplished, seeing what they've done in the space, I recognize that they can be a motivator and that person that might empower one of my members of my audience or my attendees. And I want them to, I want to give them that opportunity to speak at that point. So just because you get a no when you're asking, because there have been times that I've applied to go speak somewhere and I've gotten a rejection letter. So I look at those rejection letters as it's no, not right now. It's not no forever, right? So that's kind of what I'm coming to the table with when I write my own rejection letters. And obviously it's a templated letter. It's a boilerplate letter because with hundreds of applications, I'm sending out a large number of those. But I do come to it with this idea of this is just no right now.
And I like that because, and it's actually a really important fact here, especially for those of you listening that are applying to be speakers on summits. A good friend of mine, Pete Vargas over at Advance Your Reach, he actually has this process. And they're putting speakers on stages, on physical stages. So, that's a majority of no's with a few yeses. But what they actually, the process they have, so I'll add on to yours because I think this could be a really big, powerful moment for all of our summit hosts listening in here as you're trying to get on summits, is when you get a no, they don't actually just say, okay, whatever, and then even maybe apply again next year. What they actually do is they follow up with a completely, I understand, and they look for a way to help that host out, even though they got turned down to be on the summit. You better believe it's almost like a 70% yes rate on the next year for them getting that stage. It's going to work the same way on a virtual summit. If you get told no, look at that as an opportunity to shine and step up. And don't just take that as a no and walk away from it, but find a way to actually step up and deliver some value to that host. You almost guarantee you can be on their next project or their next summit. So
For sure. One of the things that I'm thinking about implementing that I have not yet implemented is what's called a maturity model. And a maturity model basically allows that speaker to rate themselves throughout the process of whatever it is you're asking them to do. In this case, it's the application process, right? And obviously the first question might be, did you fill out the application 100%? What were your, key takeaways? What is it that you gave me that made me want to think about bringing you on as a speaker? And the cool thing about the maturity model is it allows me as a speaker to understand perhaps why I wasn't chosen and what I can do better the following year to make sure I'm chosen, if that makes sense. And I use maturity models a lot of times with my students, helping them to master whatever it is the task at hand is. And so I'm thinking about implementing that inside the summit process and the application process because I do have to send so many of these rejection letters.
Yeah, that would be an amazing thing to add to that. So as we near the end of the episode here, I want to take a slight detour, slight turn, and talk about something that you've been doing with this summit that you haven't done on your previous summits. And I'd like to you to talk us through this, kind of taking a stand or taking a mission and incorporating it in with your summit. Can you just walk us through what you're doing this time and kind of why?
Yeah, sure. Can I go a little deep? So this year we decided to take on a mission, and this mission is the A-Wish Academy. The A-Wish Academy is something that is very, very near and dear to my heart because it supports women coming out of domestic violence, and I was one of those women. And when I finally decided to leave, it took me 5 years to leave and another 2 years to get back on my feet. And I know with the systems and the technology that we have available today, I can shorten that amount of time for women across the world. And so my goal with the A-Wish Academy is to teach women not only those hard marketable skills that we all need in order to make it in the space, but those soft skills that nobody wants to talk about, right? And the A-Wish Academy has been something that's been on my agenda, and I haven't been able to figure out kind of a way to funnel funds into it that didn't touch my life, that didn't touch my livelihood and the things that I have going on and taking care of my own family. So I kept getting this recurring dream, hey, the summit can do this, the summit can do this. And I thought, wow, okay, that's a crazy thought. And then this is all happening before the summit even got off the ground this year, right? And then the name of the academy always came to me as a walk in her shoes. And I'm like, that's way too long. Anybody that knows anything about marketing, you can't have something that long and present it out there. And I was meeting with a colleague, I guess it's been about 2 months ago. And she said, well, let's see what the acronym is. And she wrote the acronym out, and it's A-Wish. And the H and the S are flip-flopped, right?
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact.
So that it's A-W-I-H-S, A-Wish Academy. And I said, that's why I couldn't get it out of my head. So what I'm finding is most of the women that I interview, probably 2/3 or more of them have a similar background experience. And what I'm finding is the women are jumping behind me at this opportunity to support this effort. Several are saying, hey, let me come in and teach a class inside your academy. Hey, let me support you in figuring this piece out or that piece out. And what that's taught me is you can actually put together a mission that goes along with your summit. Still, my ultimate goal for the summit is empowering women. Well, my ultimate goal for A-Wish Academy is empowering women. So it aligns perfectly with what I'm trying to do. And granted, this is not something I've ever done before, but nobody gets a get out of life free card. So we all begin at the beginning. But I'm super, super excited to see where this takes us into next year and beyond because of the network of people and the collaborations that I've built in being able to put together an academy that is going to be a game changer for those women who are coming out of that space. Most people who serve that group of women don't work with them in the place where they're trying to design a plan to get out, because they yo-yo, right? They go back and forth and people won't touch them. The only real things that they have is maybe the local church. They sometimes have shelters if they're not overwhelmingly crowded, and the justice system, which oftentimes can be used against them by the perpetrator. So there's really nobody stepping in and saying, hey, I can teach you project-based skills so you can freelance in the online space. I can teach you the systems to rebuild your life and get yourself out of there. I can teach you, the soft skills that you're going to need to be able to break out of that toxic relationship. Nobody's saying those things to them. And that's what the AWISH Academy will do.
So this is an extremely inspiring and aspiring kind of project you've taken on, and aligning it with your summit. And I think this is really powerful. I've had a host on here before who actually ran an entire summit around a charity, a nonprofit, to help during times of disaster. So I fully believe you're going to be able to use this and scale it and grow it, and you're going to be helping thousands and thousands of people out there. So I'm really excited and happy for you. So as we start to round this out, first off, everybody listening in here, we've talked about a lot of different resources and aspects of this. So please be sure to head over to the show notes at podcast.virtualsummits.com/056. So you can get access to all of these, including Marissa's 5-step speaker vetting system. So head over there for that. And I'll just turn it over to you for a second to kind of give any kind of parting piece of wisdom, advice, and also, let our summit hosts where they can come find you at. Where are you hanging out at?
Yeah, for sure. I am the Systems Lounge on all channels. So you can find me anywhere underneath the Systems Lounge. And I think my parting advice would simply be, if you're thinking about doing a summit and you're scared because it might be too overwhelming, give yourself the opportunity to try it out. I didn't even know what I would be capable of, with regard to running a summit until the first year that I did it. I didn't know how much I would love the interview process. I didn't know how much I would love connecting and collaborating with the other women in my summit. I didn't know what an impact I was going to make on my audience until I actually stepped in and did it. So I would encourage each and every one of you who are thinking about it, give yourself the opportunity. You didn't know you could ride a bike until you first did it either, right? So give yourself the opportunity to become a summit host and see whether or not it's something that's worth it to you. The other thing that I will say is give yourself time. There's a lot of conversation out here about, oh my gosh, you can do this in 24 hours or a month or 60 days or 90 days. If you feel like that's too much, it's okay to stretch this thing out for 6 months. I start working on my summit every year, a year in advance of when it's going to go live. And the reason I do that is because I believe in running a stress-free summit. And I don't want my speakers stressed out, and I don't want myself stressed out. And I want plenty of time to add in the new cool things that are going to come along with getting involved in the new set of speakers that are coming around the pike. So give yourself that opportunity to really hone in and look at your schedule, look at what you already have going on, and determine whether or not you want to do it in 60, 90, 180 days or whatever the case may be. You can definitely find my summit at bizsystemsummit.com. I'm sure that those links will be below, and definitely come ask any questions you have. You can look me up on the Systems Lounge. You can also find me under Marissa Stone, either one of those locations, and I'm sure the links will also be in the show notes for that.
Absolutely. So great. Oh my God, this has been an absolutely incredible episode. I got so much information here. I love when we go deep on speakers because it's so important. I mean, that is what makes the summit happen. So thank you so much, Marissa. It's been absolutely incredible. I appreciate you for taking the time here. I want to give a shout out to all of our summit hosts who are listening to this episode. You rock. I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software, and your message matters. So make sure you go check out the show notes, get access to all these amazing resources, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.